Welcome back to another episode of Creature Madness. I am your host, Gus from Askewed Reviews. Now, if you have not heard of Creature Madness before, this is a creation by my friend Matthew over at Horror Madness. You see, he decided to create a film club where we all get together each week and watch the same creature feature film, and then we review it for all of you. Now, aside from myself and Matthew, the other members of this club are Jen, Ryan, Bambi, Ashley, Amariah, and Karen. And for this week's Creature Madness, I chose the creature feature film of There's Something in the Barn from 2023, directed by Magnus Martins. All right, so from here, I'm going to stop doing what is probably one of the worst Norwegian accents you've ever heard. But I was doing that as a reference towards this film. So let's talk about There's Something in the Barn. Now, the movie starts off with us meeting our main characters of the Nordheim family. Now, this consists of the father, Bill, the stepmother, Carol, the daughter, Nora, and the son, Lucas. Now, the Nordheim family is actually moving to Norway due to the fact that Bill's uncle unfortunately passed away, but they inherited his family farm. Once they get there, they realize it's a beautiful home on a very large piece of land that also has a barn on it. Now, each of the family members does have a little bit of a different reaction towards the move. Bill tries to stay positive the entire time. Carol, for the most part, is very positive, and especially due to the fact that Bill has mentioned that they can convert the barn into a bed and breakfast. Then we have Nora, the daughter, who has no interest in being there, and of course is going to give some attitude about it. And then there's Lucas, who is a little bit wary, but is willing to kind of go with the flow. While getting used to their new surroundings, Lucas ends up trying to explore the barn and discovers that there is some sort of being inside there who does seem to sort of resemble an elf or something like that. Now, one day, while going into town, Lucas runs into a gentleman who seems to have some information about the folklore involved with a creature called a barn elf, which seems to be the creature that Lucas has run into. Now, this man gives Lucas three bits of information to know about the creature. Number one, it does not like artificial or bright lights. Number two, it doesn't like changes. And number three, it does not like loud noises. So at first, Lucas is doing everything possible to make sure that these rules are being followed. And because he's doing that, the barn elf in return starts to do some really helpful things around the actual farm for the Nordheims. Now, the rest of the family, of course, is either not noticing or not believing in the possibility of there actually being an elf. So, of course, the family, especially Bill, starts to break all of these rules, either by making lots of changes, adding tons of bright lights and decorations, some of which make really loud noises, all of which ends up really annoying the elf. Now, the final straw seems to happen when the Nordheims are attempting to try to get to know their neighbors better by hosting a party. The problem is the party is being hosted in their barn, where they have made changes, they've added lights, there's loud music playing, and with everyone eventually starting to drink and have a good time, the drunken rowdiness causes a whole big issue for this elf. It's also soon after this that we discover that this angry little elf is not alone, as it summons many of its brethren to come and get revenge on the Nordheims. This is definitely a fun little comedy horror to watch that's great for the holiday season. I also feel like it technically would fit into the category of gateway horror. However, though, as you get further into the story, because at first, as it kept going along, I was like, okay, this is a fun, cutesy little movie, and kids can definitely watch this. But as it does get closer to the end, there is a lot more violence that does occur. So this is definitely a gateway horror. Maybe not for the youngest of audiences, but for a little bit older, I think it would be perfectly fine. So I definitely enjoyed this one enough that I wouldn't mind it rotating every once in a while back into Christmas horror films that I watch. Maybe not annually, but every few years. So at least for me on my scale, I'm going to give this film a 3 out of 5. I do recommend checking it out for yourselves, and it is currently streaming for free on Shudder. Now, as a bit of a spoiler warning, this is my part in Creature Madness, where I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about the creatures that appear in the film. Mind you, I may have described them quite a bit already, but in case you don't want anything else revealed, go watch the movie and then come back to this. So, of course, the creature I'm going to talk about for this is the barn elf. Now, for the most part, at least at first, it seems to be a somewhat mischievous, fey creature. It does, however, have a very dark side with a murderous intent. And as I also mentioned, there's not just one, there are quite a few of these creatures that apparently live in a somewhat underground community that has tunnels leading to different barns. Now, one thing I wasn't 100% certain on is whether or not they also had some amount of magical ability, because I could swear that the barn elf at times was kind of almost teleporting or phasing in and out during scenes, but I don't know if that was just that he was really good at hiding and then would just kind of pop out when it's time. So I hope you enjoyed my review of the film There's Something in the Barn. If you'd like to see what everyone else in Creature Madness did for their review, just look up the hashtag Creature Madness, and if you've already seen this film, let me know what you thought about it in the comments.